أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين ثم وصلى وسلم على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا حبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear respected ulama al-ikram, beloved elders and beloved brothers in Islam, we welcome you to yet another exciting episode of our Fiqh of Marriage series. We run to you every Tuesdays and we pray to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to guide us in this noble work. In this Fiqh of Marriage series, we try to investigate and also find the meeting point in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed in the Quran and also the practices of the Sunnah. We want to look at what the contemporary issues that emerge and we see how we align them with the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are a lot of significant issues that are happening in our contemporary society, but we need to make sure that we must remain within the perimeters of our deen. For that, we get those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with the knowledge of the deen to come and help us interpret what is happening such that we remain within those perimeters. Dr. Abdul Hafiz Walusimbi is giving himself that opportunity to help us understand these very emerging issues in our society. We need to approach these things practically such that we actually appreciate the challenges ahead of us. My name is Abdul Hakim Buyondo, and Dr. Abdul Hafiz Walusimbi is our presenter, who is actually the Director of Sharia at the Office of the Supreme Mufti. He's also the Head of Department of Sharia at the Faculty of Islamic Studies and Arabic Language of the Islamic University in Uganda. He's also a facilitator in the Sharia perspectives in various institutions of learning across the globe, who has done significant research in the fields of Sharia. We pray to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to guide us with his knowledge and also enable him benefit from his knowledge both on dunya and akhirah, and most of all protect him from any fitna that might come as a result of his knowledge. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this small contribution we are doing to the society. We thank those who are our stakeholders. I would like to thank the Next Media through the Salam TV, who are doing the broadcast of our program. We thank Digital Al-Hidayah Digital Platforms, which are actually also doing the broadcast. We thank the management of Islamic University in Uganda for giving us the platform, the technical support and also the tech support to ensure that this work comes to you most efficiently. Dr. Abdul Hafiz, it is a while since we last met. We broke off for Ramadan, where we did some special programming for Ramadan, but we have to go back to our fiqh of marriage. By the time we left before Ramadan, we were exploring the issues of weddings. And actually you significantly highlighted for us what Islam talks about, what happens, what are the responsibilities and obligations of each other, and we actually appreciated the obligations of the people who are in the marriage family. You gave us the obligations of the husband, the obligations of the wife, and you told us that each of them must yield his obligations if at all we are to get harmony. It is at that point that I would wish that we begin tonight's program. Now that each of us is in the home, we are having the husband, we are having the wife, where one of them seems not to agree with the other. Because in the last program you told us that once each of the parties plays his obligations right, there will be harmony.
True.
But in the what is happening practically now is that there are situations where people are going to disagree, and one will find it that he's no longer fit to stay with another.
Yeah.
What prescribes this in the English language is the divorce. However, now, from the European setting, from the African setting, from the Arab setting, each of us have defined divorce in his own perspective. However, we who need to define it in the perimeters of Islam, we need you to come and address us and appreciate. Once we agree that it is no longer possible for me to stay with him or for me to stay with her, how can I redefine it within the perimeters of Islam? Doctor, it's there that I would like to understand whether Sharia has provided its perspective in such a condition. What is the Sharia perspective? And how does Sharia perceive divorce such that we remain within the circles of Islam? We welcome Doctor for this discussion. Naam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى اللهم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. I want to start by thanking the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having enabled us to observe the pillar of fasting, the holy month of Ramadan. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept that ibadah from us. At the same time, we also pray that the lessons which we have picked during the holy month of Ramadan, we move on with them up to the next Ramadan, insha'Allah ta'ala. I wish to remind believers that Ramadan should be looked at as a training session. It should leave some kind of impact on you. It is a time whereby you are recharging your faith, you are renewing your commitment towards Islam by practicing some kinds of ibadah, some kinds of worship, so that even after Ramadan, you can actually continue being a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I also want to congratulate the Muslim fraternity, whenever it is found, for having celebrated the Eid al-Fitr and all sorts of good that you did. Nas'alullah ta'ala an yataqabbala minna innahu huwa as-sami'ul alim. We pray to Allah so that He can accept and admit that from us, and also forgive us the shortcomings and some other mistakes that we might have committed, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Turning to our discussion tonight, to our series of the fiqh of marriage, I wish to welcome the audience back to our series. You know, the topic concerning marriage, it is a long topic. We have completed some of the components that are related to marriage, and now we want to go to the second bigger segment, and that is divorce. From the moderator, there is a lot that is taking place in our lives in terms of separation, in terms of distancing ourselves from each other. And there is a lot of social behaviors, social dynamics in the way how people choose to separate after finding out that the institution that they chose with their interest, with their willingness to enter into, is no longer giving them the desired results. Today, we are beginning on that journey to try to look at each and every step that is supposed to be taken by a believer if he has made the choice to divorce. How does Sharia perceive divorce? It is a very important question that calls for a significant answer. Divorce, scholars have defined it in different ways. But the simplest definition is hallu qaidun nikah. It is the termination of a marital relationship. Termination of a marital relationship with a clear intention, with clear statements. Why is it that it is important that the intention must be clear? Why is it important that the statements must be clear? Because amidst us, in the way how we go on with our lives, we happen to make several statements which might actually be understood as terminating the relationship. But when we try to investigate the intention, someone will tell you that, sorry, I didn't mean that. I just wanted to scare him. I just wanted to scare her. But I didn't mean that I want this relationship to come to an end. So, the general perception of what divorce is in Islam should actually be looked at in comparison with what is marriage. Our previous discussion has been on marriage. We have looked at the objectives of marriage. We have looked at the advantages, the importance, the significance of marriage. So, if you want to understand divorce, it should be understood from that background that whatever has brought you into marriage, time has come that you have decided all this to come to an end. That is why, as we go on with this discussion, we shall look at some of the moral considerations that each partner must put into mind before you actually arrive at the decision of divorce. When Sharia looks at divorce, it looks at it within its general fundamentals and characteristics. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be aware that one of the distinguishing characteristics of Sharia is moderation. Moderation is what we call al-wasatiyya, not to be at any of the extreme ends. Sharia does not approve extremism in anything. And that's why when you read the text of Quran, the text of the Sunnah, you will find out that always khairul umur awsatuha, the best course that you should take in life, in all aspects of life, it is the mid course. It is the moderate course. And this is what Quran chapter 2 verse 143 testify to, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. That is how we made you a moderate society. That is how we chose to make you a balanced society, a balanced nation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the aspects of Islam should always be interpreted, should always be implemented or practiced within that way, within that aspect of moderation, within that characteristic of moderation. Islam does not encourage any form of extremism, neither to the extreme end or the extreme right or the extreme left. So all the Islamic practices should always be viewed, interpreted, and applied within those parameters of moderation. Why are we saying this? We are saying this because as we look at divorce, a woman in history had passed through a lot of inequalities. The woman has passed through a lot of forms of injustices. By the way, these injustices, we are cutting across all aspects of life. when time comes to our discussion on Islamic law of inheritance, we shall look at how societies were not fair. They were not just to a woman until when the Islamic system came and it liberated the woman from that kind of suffering, from that kind of injustices. A woman in many nations, she was always a prisoner in the hand of a man. And a man, whether a husband or not, was free to mistreat her in any way without any caution, without any question. As if the society had accepted the way how the woman was being mistreated. You could find out that in a situation of divorce, like the topic we are talking about today, a husband had unquestionable authority. He had a lot of, the scope was so wide. He could divorce a woman and then he leaves her to stay there until a certain time whereby maybe her waiting period is about to elapse or to come to an end, then he reunites with her. But even the kind of reunion that he has chosen, it is not actually a reunion that is based on treating her in the best way. So that was the way how a woman in marriage was being manipulated. It is so unfortunate to note that this kind of jahiliyyah behavior, this kind of mistreatment to a woman has actually come back, but this time in a new cloth. What we are seeing today, we are seeing some men neglecting their responsibilities. They leave the woman without attention until when the woman feels that she's fed up. Once she feels that she's fed up, she seeks maybe to terminate the relationship. But even when she seeks to terminate the relationship, that is when you see the man resurfacing. He doesn't want to let her go into another relationship. At the same time, he does not give her what is due for her. So, in our perception of what actually divorce is, divorce in Islam should be looked at as a moderate system that Allah chose for humanity to follow when they are ending a relationship that they feel that this marriage relationship is no longer giving them the desired fruits, the desired results. So I must come, as I come to the end of this question, I am saying that the divorce in the Islamic perspective should be based on separating or terminating the relationship, but you use clear words, clear statements, and you have a clear intention to do what you want to do. That's what I can say when it comes to the first question that the moderator had posed. Okay.
Jazakallah khair. Doctor, before I do the other question, is I don't know, I have to push you back. Does that mean that divorce has no process, or we shall be looking at the process of divorce later?
Of course, this is just an introduction.
Okay.
Divorce has a process.
Okay.
And we want to go slowly by slowly. I have just been giving the general perspective. Yes.
After understanding the general perspective of this, I want now to know how different societies perceive it, because they are dynamics.
Yeah.
Different people have perceived divorce in different ways.
Yeah.
Some have gone to the extreme of it, some have not given it much attention. Like, for example, in some countries, with all due respect, the audience we have is not only local based.
Yeah.
So that's why we need also to appreciate what goes on in other countries. In Europe, some people do not take divorce as something that's very important.
Yeah.
You don't know, but we who are football fans, there is a football fan called Hakimi. He's a Moroccan player.
Okay.
A wife filed for divorce, and she thought that she was going to take half of the property.
Yeah.
Kumbe nga Hakimi registered the property in the names of the mother. So now it turned out that now the half property Hakimi was going to enjoy was on the wife. You understand that scenario? It's like the Hakimi story. The woman filed for divorce, thinking that she will get property out of it. And because it was half, you get half of the property. Unfortunately, Hakimi's property had been registered in the mother's names. So now what was remaining was the wife's property. So Hakimi is now going to enjoy the wife's property. So my position is that people perceive divorce differently, and others say that no problem with divorce. Others take it as something that is very strange. Others don't want to listen about divorce. In fact, some of the sheikhs don't even want to speak about it. There is I told you, me, I'm not a sheikh, but I hear what sheikhs say. They say that it is even something that should not come nearer to the ears of people. What is the position of Islam in these social dynamics of divorce? Where do we see Islam addressing itself in this social?
Inshallah. Now, when it comes to the background that you have given this, I think later we shall be addressing this. People should stop looking at divorce as the first step towards economic earning. And I think that is coming up so much, especially in liberal societies. And inshallah we shall be looking at it even here in Uganda, whereby the Court of Appeal of recent even came up with a judgment in respect to matrimonial property, that is after divorce. But inshallah we shall come to that. Now, some of the issues that you have just hinted on, what are the behaviors of people before divorce? What are the social dynamics? I agree with you that some societies actually have attached a lot of respect to marriage. I actually want to give them that benefit of doubt. I don't want to victimize them. I don't want to say that the way how they looked at it is so bad. No. I want to give them a benefit of doubt that they looked at marriage as an institution that is so sacred. And that sanctity should always be guarded. And in order to guard it, you have ever heard about a statement which says that what God had joined, no one can separate. So, before we could accuse them of that kind of perception that they took, we need to find out, why did they go that way? They did go that way because they have a lot of attachment, a lot of importance, value that they attach to marriage institution. Now, because of that good spirit that they have, they actually ended up confiscating the human right and freedom to check out of that relationship.
Okay.
That this relationship is so valuable, it is so sacred, and therefore don't dare even to think about getting out of it. That is where you find that people actually have taken that kind of extreme end. And you find out that this is your husband, this is your wife, under all circumstances, until when death shall part you. That is how they have looked at it. Now, we shall be looking at some of the consequences of that. But the first challenge is that whether you want it or not, we are human beings. And at one moment, something that you used to be so much interested in, time comes that you are no longer interested in it. And that's why we shall see that the Islamic perspective took the balanced approach. So the first dynamic, so the first behavior of people towards divorce is that People have attached a lot of respect to the marriage institution, so much so that they don't want to think about terminating it. And we actually respect that kind of approach, of course, with its own challenges that we shall be looking at. Number two, when you look at what is taking place in Europe, you see actually the opposite. Liberalized societies. Liberalized societies have not attached any value, or they have attached a very minimum value to marriage. And that's why to them, you can marry today, and tomorrow it does not make any news to divorce. I am serious. I'm so worried that even within our African, within our Muslim societies, we are having a generation or some kinds of people who look at marriage in such a way. Somebody just got married in December last year, and he doesn't find it any problem at all to come today, and says that I want to get out of it. Yes, there might be some kind of justifications, but don't you see that somehow, somewhere, you are not attaching the value to this institution? If you are attaching value to this institution, then you might have not done enough homework before getting into it. So that is also another way how people behave before divorce. Now there is a new trend that is coming in, and I think this is also becoming very popular. You might be surprised that people are living under the same roof, but the hearts are not together. They have already divorced in their minds. In their minds, they are not husbands and wives, but they are living together. The situation is okay. Actually, when you see them going out for parties, you see, mashallah, this is a good couple. But at home, they are actually enemies to each other. This is also another trend that is coming in. Now, in trying to summarize your question, when you look at those three dynamics, those three approaches, the way how people behave before divorce, where does Islam fit in?
Before you bring me to where does Islam fit in, I'm interested in what you said on the other group of people who attach a lot of value to marriage.
Yes.
From a layman's perspective, it's as if I'm saying they are losing the practicability, the practical nature of humanity.
Exactly.
That you cannot say that two people will be the same at all times when there are practical issues that arise.
Yeah.
And again, you cannot just say that let it be liberal, because as if you will not have respected the sanctity of marriage.
Yeah.
And before I ask you that Islamic moderation which you want to bring in, either of them, because now it's as if I want to know now the position of Islam. The other extremes, until death do us apart.
Yeah.
One extreme, no problem.
Yeah.
After all, there are very many wives to marry.
Yes.
And Islam itself, as you are bringing me the position of Islam itself is from what we people hear from you, it tells us that we must look where comfort is.
Yeah.
We are not supposed to remain in how does now Islam come to either associate with itself with one of the two groups or disassociate itself with the two groups by forming its own now perspective? What could be the indicators of this Islamic moderation in this aspect of divorce?
Yeah. You see, as I said, the basic, one of the distinguishing characteristics of Islam is moderation. So we have two extremes. One extreme, don't touch that institution of marriage. Stay in it. By the way, sometimes I see some interest in it. Do you know that sometimes your father can take you to a certain institution and you don't want, but when you get there, you develop the interest in it, and you even actually excel.
Yeah, that thing happens.
Yeah, so sometimes when we tie you around and we say, Hakim, you should stay with that wife. Maybe somehow, somewhere, you start appreciating some of the advantages, some of the good things, and we can transform that hatred into love. But of course, that is not the way how Islam looked at it. And that's why when we look at the Islamic moderation, you'll find out that divorce actually should come as a last resort when we have tried all the means to see that we harmonize the relationship and it has failed. At the same time, I agree with you that, yes, we should seek comfort. But you know, there is nothing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made whereby it is 100% comfortable. So even where you are running to, you are likely to find some challenges. That is why in this case, you must exercise some kind of perseverance, some kind of patience, until when you see that the situation is unbearable, that's when you should change and go maybe to another situation. Now, what are the Islamic moderation indicators? One, in the approach towards divorce, Islam created a protective fence, we can call it a fence, around the marriage institution. Yes, you want to divorce, but you should not just wake up from your bed one night and you say that I am divorcing. We are going to tell you, sorry, that one cannot be the approach. The Islamic moderation approach requires that there are certain conditions. Those conditions must be fulfilled. There are certain essentials. There is a certain approach that you should take. There is also what we can call the divorce environment. There is a procedure, and all those must be respected. So, in a way of moderating divorce, Islam first of all put there that kind of fence, that kind of protection to the marriage sanctity. And by the way, one of those fences is to take some good time when you are studying the partner you want to go into the relationship with, so that we don't just see you after 2 months, after 3 months, that you want to get out of it. There shall be several questions. What has happened? What is that has come abrupt, which you didn't see earlier? Were you on a rush? Were you being coerced or forced? So that is the first indicator. The second indicator, as I have just shown you in history, actually a woman was considered to be a weaker party. She had no any right at all. In other words, the husband could divorce at any time of his wish, at any time of his interest. Now, in order to moderate the approach to divorce, we find out that Islam actually catered for the interest of the weaker party by also granting her the right, the freedom to get out of the relationship that she feels she's not comfortable with. So it's no longer an authority, absolute authority of the husband, that all the time he will be the one to divorce, as if the woman has no feelings, as if the woman has no interests. No, the Islamic moderation approach comes to give a woman also her right to get out of the relationship. She's convinced with rationality, with reason, that this relationship can no longer be giving her the comfort that she desired. But maybe the third point, which is very, very important, is we know that divorce is separation. And you know, in many cases when we are separating in tears. We have those emotional situations that we cannot control. One of the indicators of the Islamic moderate approach, that even in such a painful situation, Islam emphasizes humanity. You know, even when you are about to take a decision which is so painful, because you know the consequences of divorce, as we shall be looking at some of them, but Islam comes in and says, humanity. It talks about ihsan. You remember in one of our presentations where we said, the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah qad kataba al-ihsana fi kulli shay. Allah has written that benevolence, good treatment should be in each and everything. Even when you are killing, we are talking about legitimate killing, the qisas, the retaliation, you should do it with ihsan. You should do it in the best way. What about in divorce? So one of the Islamic approaches to divorce under moderation is that divorce should be exercised, should be practiced in such a cool environment. I understand the difference between the theory and practice, but this is what Islam requires. And that is why, by the way, someone who is approaching divorce, you should remember, the marriage institution itself is a civilized institution. By the way, marriage is an institution for only the civilized people. The uncivilized, they have little stake in it. Because you could see even the steps that precedes marriage. You go to the family, that is civilization. You choose, this woman, you give her the right to consent, that is civilization. You pay the mahar, you cater for this and that. All those are elements of civilization. Now, if this is an institution that you entered into with civilization, it goes without saying that as you go out, you should also go out of it in a civilized manner. It is a very, very important point. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was addressing this issue, He addressed it in Surah Al-Baqarah, Quran chapter 2, verse 229. Allah said that at-talaqu marratan, that divorce is only permissible twice. Of course, we shall go into the details of this. Then, فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَصْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Look at it. That after these two times of divorce, as we shall explain them, after that, the parties should either hold together on equitable terms. You should always live peacefully. If not, تَصْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Separate with kindness. Separate in the best way. Therefore, there is no room for violence of whatever nature in divorce. If this statement should be the only statement that can be picked from this introductory part, that should go and sink in the minds of Muslims, fellow Muslims, there is no any minimal extent of violence needed when we are divorcing. Islam actually came to fight violence of any kind, whether you are talking about the emotional, the psychological, the physical, the financial, the sexual. Islam does not approve any kind of violence. So even when you are going to take such a serious decision that is painful, that is having some negative repercussions, please, there should be no any kind of violence. To the contrary, and to my dismay, the way how we are practicing divorce is as if we are in the battlefield. One of the indicators that so and so has divorced so and so is to see some bruises, some injuries, as if we have been in a battlefield. That is against the requirement of Islam. Allah says, فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَصْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. You either live with her or live together on equitable terms in the best way that you can treat each other. If not, please separate with kindness. After all, there is no guarantee that you shall never meet again. I think that is something that people forget. We might not meet again as husband and wife, but the world is becoming, it's a very, very small village. Someone you had a misunderstanding with, a quarrel or what with today, just around the corner, he needs you, you need him. So that's why Islam looks at it in that way. As we're talking about the civilized nature, it's a point that I must emphasize. There is no any need for media attention. This is what we are saying. that because you have had a misunderstanding with your wife or with your husband, the media, the neighbors, all of them should see. We are now in a world of social media that people around come and actually take some kind of coverage and footages. Then, before actually you know, the situation or the information has already linked to very far destinations. Why all this? Because you are doing it in a way that is against Islam. There is no need for children involvement. Sometimes the children are still minors. Sometimes they are majors. But would you like all the children to appreciate or to acknowledge the fact that you are divorcing with their mother, that you are divorcing with your father? It is too bad that sometimes we happen actually to pump into them some bad information so that they can hate their mother or they can hate their father. The Islamic approach is far, far from that. So that is the third element when we are talking about the Islamic moderate approach. We can say in conclusion that when you choose to divorce, look for the best way that you can do it. And that's why we are about to look at some kind of preparation that you need to go into before you could divorce, because even divorce needs some kind of arrangement.
Doctor,
maybe I
that,
can take it back.
on that one.
Yes.
The pre-arrangements, it's like you are saying, from the emphasis I'm hearing from you, you are emphasizing civility with the divorce.
Yeah.
And this is where I have a problem with you scholars. Sometimes what you read, you think is what is happening. And what is happening is normally a disconnect from what you are reading.
Yeah.
It's as if most of the problems we are getting are connected to the assignments you are supposed to do before getting the spouse.
Yeah.
There must, if there was a gap, of course, you have to feel the impact after marriage. But I've never seen a divorce from maybe my age can be a constraint to what I'm saying. I've not seen a divorce that is having civility.
Okay.
Like abantu ne bajjawo ne bagamba nti tugenda mu divorcing ne babyogera mu bwogezi bwe batyo eseka nammwe mutulekeemu. By the time I take a decision to divorce, I've found him doing shirk.
Yeah.
He promised me a lot of things. Now I've found him doing zina, so I can no longer be with him. I've found him doing he has beaten me, so I can no longer stay here. I think in Africa, I don't know, people in Europe will tell us, just because we got another African who gave us another perspective of divorce to get the economic benefits. But in Africa, specifically here in Uganda, it's rare to find divorce where there is a civility. Like by the time people go for that, you don't expect. So now I want to understand, when should I do divorce? What should I do when I'm preparing for divorce? And there is another question. When should divorce be an option?
Okay.
You understand? Because doctor, let me tell you, you may not be having them, I don't know, but me, I have friends who have divorced. One was shirk, it was a shirk issue, another one was a disrespect issue, another one was a zina issue, so these issues, there is no way you are going to tell me about civility by the time we take that decision. So how long should it take me to stay in that marriage? What is, when should I say that now divorce is an option? I don't know whether my question. Yes.
I have really understood you. When we go gradually, when we take it in such a gradual way, I feel that the audience shall be appreciating how divorce should be approached.
And before you go on, do you know there is a disconnect between civility? Civility, I mean, that honorable way of handling issues. There is a disconnect between civility and divorce. In our perspective, by the time something comes to the divorce issue, so can you help us with those arrangements, the pre-divorce?
Now, before we can even go into these arrangements, We are here to teach you civilization, to teach you to be civilized in all the approaches, in all the way that you are handling things. You get my point? That is a part of our objective. We cannot let you always continue in such behaving in such uncivilized manner to an extent that you are even proud of it.
Some people are.
No, we cannot do that. As when we don't change you, then we are wasting time. Actually, one of the objectives of Islam is to come and teach you that kind of civilization, that kind of good behavior. I understand that we have backgrounds of violence. You know, by the way, some of us within ourselves we are violent. That's why even when we come to caution you, you know, that is the way I am. So Islam comes in to say, sorry, we are not going to tolerate that kind of violence in you. This is the cause. At least let us teach you so that we have وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We are not to punish until when we send a messenger. At least let us teach, so that we can do away with all those uncivilized issues. Now, if you want to do divorce in a civilized manner, personally, I thought of the following. Number one.
Doctor, you have qualified your statements with the word person.
Are you forgetting the times that you made our phones very busy from time and again? Dr. Hafiz, will you escort me? I am here to confirm the date. Do you remember that? Now, did you make any spiritual consultation when you are going into this marriage? Why am I taking you back? Because you are about to take a serious decision to terminate something that you had built. And you actually took some good time to build it. You involved the people. You amassed some kind of support, the physical, the financial, the emotional, among others. So if you want to have your divorce in a civilized manner, don't rush. Give yourself some time. If possible, take a personal retreat and contemplate about how much did it take you to get into this relationship that you want now to terminate. By the way, in my own opinion, you should take more time to think about divorce as compared to the time you took to enter into marriage. Do you know why? Because of several factors. One, at marriage level, you have not built any feelings. But at divorce, you have developed some feelings.
With even children.
Within the children, you have brought some innocent souls. You have innocent beings.
Whom you are disconnecting.
Whom you are disconnecting. Before marriage, they were not there. But now, you must have this into your consideration. There is what we call affinity relationship. Al-muharramat bil-musahara. There are certain people who have even become prohibited on you because of this marriage that you want to terminate. Have you thought about it? Have you thought about the future of the children? Let me narrate to you. Yesterday I was reading about, one of actually my good scholars, the role models, is Muhammad Ratib An-Nabulsi. He's a very rational man. MashaAllah, Allah gave him a lot of hikmah.
We're about to have issues with that one.
I have no problem to have issues with him. An-Nabulsi, in one of his interactions with married people, somebody came and complained to him and said that my new wife is mistreating my daughter from the previous marriage. You understand that situation? You had a certain marriage before and you divorced. Now this woman left and she left you with a child. So the man comes to An-Nabulsi, a great scholar, a contemporary scholar, and he says, I'm having issues. The way how this woman is treating the daughter from my first marriage is not good. It's mistreating her. An-Nabulsi said, first of all, appreciate it that it is natural. After all, she's not the mother to her. And by the way, whenever she looks at her, she's looking at a core, even if that core is no more here. You get it? That is one. And then he said, now it is time to appreciate the consequences of divorce. I hope you have gotten me well. You are now appreciating the consequences of divorce. If this daughter was still living with her mother, she wouldn't have been passing through this kind of mistreatment. So that's why I am emphasizing, in my opinion, that before you think about divorce, actually, the time you spend to think about marriage should be doubled before you would think and take a decision about what? About divorce. I am not saying that the new wives should actually mistreat, the children from the previous what? Marriages. People might misunderstand me in such a way. No. Actually, it is a caution even to the new wives. The Baganda have a saying, akagwa kakuba mujjao. The stick that is used to beat your core. When you find it, what do?
I don't know.
You hide it. You hide it. Because if you just bring it closer to the husband, because this time is beating your core, time shall come whereby you shall actually be the victim of the same. So in this case, it is actually a caution that if you are mistreating this child because the mother is no longer here, think about the situations that can change, and tomorrow you are no longer here and you have also left your children behind. Now, that is an issue if we are talking about civility in divorce. By the way, I must emphasize, because people take little time to think about divorce and they actually take decisions without consultations, that is why personally I am now very, very much reserved to escort people to marriage.
Hey.
Yes. Because when you are going for marriage, they make you too busy. They want actually to go with you. They must make sure that they remind you from time and again. But if he's divorcing the very woman you escorted him to go and get, he doesn't want even to listen to you. Are we together on that? Now, understanding the preparation for divorce. One, please know that you are about to lose the most treasured treasure. When the Prophet ﷺ was talking about one of the most treasured valuables, he talked about a good woman or a good wife. Number two, you are about to dismantle a sacred institution. So you must do the following. One, you must be very, very careful. You must take a lot of care. Why are we emphasizing that? It is common knowledge that valuable things are appreciated when they are no longer there. So be careful on that. Check your statements. Sometimes the situation that in between you is not that serious, but because you are not taking good care of your utterances, you find out that the situation had been worsened. Look at the way how you conduct yourself. There is a story of a man known as Farazdak. I don't know whether you have ever heard about Farazdak. Farazdak is used to be a popular poet. He could construct some good poems. He had an opportunity to marry a beautiful daughter, and he married her at a very, very small cost. A very small cost. Because there was a relationship between him and that daughter, and that woman. You know how relatives can come in so that they can simplify. Now, time came after just a few years that Farazdak felt no longer interested in the relationship. He went to one of the scholars, and the scholars advised him that Islam had given you the gradual process. Please follow it. Farazdak says that no, I want you as a scholar to witness that I am divorcing this woman 3 times in one sitting so that there is no any chance of reunion. That is Farazdak. Now, having done that, having decided that, of course, he decided to make the divorce 3 times in one sitting, and it became absolute. Now, after some few months, he realizes that he rushed in the decision. You know, and he wants now to go back and reunite. And inshallah, in our discussion, we shall be seeing that you have 2 chances. So the last one, that's why Allah tells you that please live on equitable terms or let her go with kindness. Now, having said that, Farazdak goes and constructs a poem, you know, and in that poem, the poem is just full of, how do you call it, regret. Full of regret, to an extent that he says that, to me, that lady was known as Nawar. He says that, وَلَقَدْ كَانَتْ لِي جَنَّةٌ. Nawar used to be to me like a garden. She was like Jannah, paradise. فَخَرَجْتُ مِنْهَا. But because I was rushing, I decided to terminate the relationship and I got out of this paradise. Like the same way how Adam was taken out of the paradise. Why all this? Because he was not being careful about the decision he's about to take. Number 2, where did we throw away the Islamic advice of shura, consultation? How many times the Prophet ﷺ has emphasized shura? Allah says, وَأَمْرُهُمْ shura bainahum. Their affairs are affairs of mutual consultation. Even when you are about to take the decision to divorce, please consult. And in one of the wars, you know, the war brings a lot of issues. But the Prophet, even in the war, he was so much consulting. From time and again, he said, Ashiru alayya ya ayyuhan nas. You people advise me. You know, during the situation of war, you could actually say that he shouldn't consult. He's the commander-in-chief, is the commander, and therefore he should go ahead and do whatever he wants. But no, he used to consult. Until when it is reported by the companion saying that, Mara aina akthara, you know, we didn't see someone, we didn't know someone who was so much consulting like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, I have asked you, how much time did you take when you are going to marry this woman that you want to divorce? How many people did you consult? Now, if you want to terminate, is it not actually reasonable that you should also go and consult them? You get it? Sometimes, or in some situations, when you are going to marry her, you made some kind of spiritual consultation, istikhara. Have you made it now? Or you say that for me, I have seen it, things are not working out, therefore I am getting out of it. So,
Doctor, before you skip that, you see, we have a problem between you, the scholars, and we, the practical ones. You see, for us, these things happen on us.
Yeah.
As we are concluding these pre-arrangements, allow me to tell you this, such that you give us a synopsis of it. People divorce for reasons. Some of the reasons, we men on our side, when I find you, my wife with another man, I don't discuss.
Okay.
When a woman, how is okunyoma? I don't know. The kunyoma, disrespect.
Despise or disrespect.
Yes. When a woman is disrespecting me, and I told you the other reason why women.
Yeah, I remember.
When I ask, and you don't.
Yes.
I put you there. Then also women have their reasons.
Yeah.
Care, respect, etc. When you talk of the issue of being careful, that people before going for divorce, be careful.
Yeah.
Of course I know. I have friends who have divorced. You know, the children. The issue of children, it plays a great role in this decision. And you know, your friends call you praising your husband. That, oh, Saida or Shadia, you know, you have a good husband, he's religious, he's what, etc, etc. But the guy they are praising when he comes home, how will you really consult those people? You see that question, that gap. You see, when Shadia is home, she says, you call her, Lusimbe calls her. Oh Shadia, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave you everything, mashallah. Dr. Lusimbe calls Saidat, oh Saidat, mashallah, mashallah. Kumbe, she's the one who knows the real Hakim.
So what's the problem?
So the problem is, you are telling us here in your Darsus, please, before taking this decision, consult. Doctor, the people I should consult, they are saying my husband as and then let me land my question.
Yes.
Doctor, lastly, you are telling me to be careful. Be careful. Think of that period when you were marrying. Sheikh, I asked you this question the first day we were talking about wedding, nikah. I told you that Imam, Sheikh, Doctor, have you realized that before marrying a woman, there is that shahawa which is heavy that comes into you. But after marrying her, Papa, even the other warmth which was coming when you are near her no longer comes.
Yes.
So you are telling me to be careful, Yahi. You are telling me to consult. Doctor, whom should I be careful with, and who is that right person that I should consult? Because by the time we get married, Doctor, the friends of our husbands become our friends vis-a-vis. So, Doctor, whom should I consult when the other people are praising my husband?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. When it comes to your question, has two ingredients. The first one, I agree with you that before marriage there was that too much love that was pushing you to get into it. By the way, when you say that, you are making me to associate myself with the statement of one of the scholars who said that marriage is not for emotional people like you.
Hey.
Yes. Marriage shouldn't be approached, shouldn't be entered into with that kind of too much emotions.
Lust.
That is the word. The too much hawa nafs. Why that scholar made that statement? That kind of hawa nafs, that kind of desires, the lusts, actually block you from seeing realities. And that's why we shall not be surprised that after a small period of time, you want to get out of it because your senses were all blocked and you couldn't see the reality on that issue.
That's why you told guardians to play a part in giving the eye.
Exactly.
Okay.
You see my point? Secondly, even if we say that you are no longer experiencing that heat that used to have it, I understand. Now, you have been with this lady and you have enjoyed all the heat and the heat has exhausted. Now you want to throw away? Is that fair?
And now she has annoyed me.
You know, that's why Allah comes in to say, وَلَا تَنْسَوْا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Don't forget at one moment you used to live with that kind of heat that you have talked about. You used to have a lot of enjoyable moments and so on. And by the way, that is when civility should come in. You know, you need to conclude. There are many issues that we can actually recall here. You remember the story of a woman who came and complained to the Prophet ﷺ that this man has taken away all my beauties. The beauties of, the youthful time. He had produced from me this and this. When he sees that now I'm no longer attractive, he wants to throw me away. You get my point? Now, whom to consult? Consultation, like the lawyers, we are happy that amidst us we have some senior counsels. It is about you choose people to consult. Not every person, by the way, not every person should be your consultant.
Let
me complete. Let me complete my point. Okay? There are people who are rational enough that when you go to them, one of the requirements of consultation is you have to tell someone what is really going on. And that person has an obligation of confidentiality. You get my point? Now, the challenge we have is that when I call you and I'm seeing your wife as mashallah as what? When it comes to consultation, you have a duty to disclose to me because you have that trust that you have built in me. That when I tell Abdul Hafiz that what you see on surface is not the reality, I will understand you. And if I'm going to understand you, then I am duty bound to give you the best advice. وَإِذَا اسْتَنصَحَكَ فَانصَحْ لَهُ. One of the obligations of the believer that if the believer comes to you for consultation, you have a duty to give him the best advice. You get my point? But as we are winding up, have you thought about the outcomes of the decision that you are about to make? Okay? Have you thought about it? Have you weighed the options, whether you can stay with it or it is the right time after to get out of it? Have you ever thought about a question, why did our mothers, by the way, chose to stay in a relationship, not because that they were enjoying them? Okay? So, finally we could say that in terms of consultation, as I've said, you need to involve some key people, especially those who were key in your decision to marry. You get it? You have the parents. You have the special friends. You have some in-laws. The statement that I can end with, we should stop getting into families. Are we together? As friends. And we leave those families when actually we leave the family torn apart with enmity, with hatred. You know what it means? You are my friend because you are my moderator. As a result, you welcome me to your family. And along the way, I see your sister. MashaAllah. Because of the friendship, even the family is ready to simplify the matters for us. We cannot complicate matters for him. Now, you have given me that kind of simplicity and so on. Later, I quit. I divorce. Divorce is okay, as we shall look at it. But the family that you found intact, in love, in friendship, you are leaving it disintegrated, torn apart. Some people within your family, they no longer want to look at you. Go to the you get it? And so on and so forth. You get it? So, having said that, of course, this being an introduction, inshallah we shall be looking at more and more details about divorce. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, shalla la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Yeah, we have come to the end of this. I'm sorry, we shall not be picking the questions. We shall pick the questions later. As you are there in your home, especially you who is thinking about divorce, I'm very well aware you have the right reasons for your right decision. But these questions you should always contemplate. Ask yourself about the impact of what you're going to do, those who are going to be affected by your decisions, and also ask yourself, did the people whom you did consult when you are coming into it, are they the ones you are consulting as you are moving out of it? It's not all about being in a comfort zone. It's all about being patient and within the circles of your deen. Doctor will be exploring more about the divorce concept in the Islamic perspective as we are dissecting the issue of divorce in the Islamic perspective. I thank you very much. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursalin. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.